and welcome back to Contemporary Black Voices. And again, my name is Dr. Sharon Michael Chadwell. Today's discussion is really about the variances on how Black baby boomers and Black millennials and Gen Zers see issues through their different lenses. And so, Beryl, you want to continue your discussion about the DEI movement? Let me ask a quick question. Do the millennials and the Gen Zers, I said Gen X or Gen Zers, claim DEI as their movement?
No, I don't think they claim it as their movement, and some of them don't fully understand it. I actually was having a discussion with a friend of mine who is the same age, 37, and we were on complete different ends of DEI. He felt that DEI wasn't a necessity. He didn't like it, and he felt that we shouldn't need any special recognition based off of race. He felt that in itself was racist, and that, you know, he wanted to go in and be judged based off the merit. And I had to explain to him that that's beautiful. That is a wonderful statement, and everybody wants that. However, here in America, that was not the case and was not happening, because if that were there and that was the case, we wouldn't have needed DEI in the first place. And like I said, with 27% of executives, being hired from 2020 to 2024 being Black, imagine would that number have been that high had DEI standards and the whole George Floyd movement not come into play? Absolutely not. That alone shows you the need for those kind of standards, because if you were already hiring the way that you were supposed to be hiring, you wouldn't have needed to roll out any programs. You would have said, oh, here's our hiring roster, and it already is diversified. I don't need to implement anything because we've already implemented. We just call it fair hiring practices.
Right.
We don't have to have a name for it, because we're just decent people who hire people based off of their merit and their capabilities to do the job. So for me, it's like, I understand both sides. I understand the saying of, well, I wish it wasn't necessary. That's great. But however, right now, currently, we've seen it is necessary. And already, since we've seen these DEI standards roll back, what have we seen? We've seen Black people that are in executive positions being fired already. We've seen the Joint Chiefs, you've seen the Joint Chief get fired. We've seen a lot of things happening that are kind of showing that we're going backwards. And, for me, as a civil rights activist, it's frustrating, because I understand the years and years and years of struggle to get to where we're at, just to allow these kind of things to come in and roll us backwards.
So go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
Let me ask a question. When you talk about rolling back, as a baby boomer, we fought so long to not be called, and I'm going to say the word, nigger.
Right.
Okay? And we have so many of these rappers who are making money, and people are just talking and saying the word.
Right.
White people get confused, okay, because they think, well, you say it, I should be able to say it. And then when you confront your generation, they say, well, we saying nigga and not nigger. And I'm saying, really? Really? And so I find this as being a continual issue, because it sends mixed messages. And when you talk about the things that are going on in the country now, we find so many of this is they're trying to revert us back. We're trying to go forward. We have a problem within our own race. We have a problem within generational. We've got many different problems, and some of it stems from this word.
So I took a lot of time actually on that word, just thinking about the use of it, because I've heard that argument. Obviously, it's a popular one, or that conversation. And I ended up on the side of, I actually don't mind the use of the word, and I'll tell you why. Because for me, words only have as much power as we allow them to have. And what I feel happened when Black people started, instead of being offended by that word and allowing it to penetrate, I think that we did what we've done with all of our tragedies throughout our history. We've taken something that's tragic and turned it into comedy. So what I see when I see us calling each other that is we've taken something you tried to hurt us with, and we actually took it and redefined it as an identity, which now you yourself are jealous about. Why are so many white people bothered when they hear Black people call each other that? They weren't bothered when they were calling us that. They're bothered because you've taken the power out of that word. It no longer means the same to you when I can call you a nigger and you say, okay.
Well, let me ask this.
Like that doesn't hurt. That doesn't have the same effect as it would have had back when I allowed myself to believe that your words had power. You have no power. And that's where I feel this whole anger and racism is coming from. As they slowly lose the grips of power and those little symbolisms that they held on to, it's a feeling of a loss of control.
So does the same hold true for my compadre? I go out with her and I tell Caleb, I say, I'm taking my bitch and my hoe out, whatever. Does the same hold true for that? Because that's how we refer to our women.
I have heard that too, and that's not something that I don't see that as the same thing as the nigger for me.
So how do you see it?
So I think that that's a personal thing. I think there's people that have allowed themselves to be called that. I don't think that it's right. I don't think that that should be, because we've allowed ourselves sometimes to be disrespected, and we start to disrespect each other. And I think sometimes that comes out of a frustration for situation we're in. And instead of attacking outward, we attack what we call safe targets.
So how do we change
I can't talk to, the white boss like that, but I can come home and talk to you like that. And that, you know what I mean? I think that's where some of that comes from, and we have to address that, because in order for us to want people to hold us in a respectful manner, we have to respect ourselves, we have to respect our women, our children, and we have to put that face forward. For me,
how do we begin to change that?
I think, and honestly, we have to start from conversation and education. A lot of our people are misled because we don't talk to each other. But it can't be a talking through a judgmental standpoint. We have to talk through the lens of, I understand where you're coming from, but let me show you and share with you why that may not be the way. When we talk about the gap in the generational divide, if you come and just tell me, hey, why are you dressing with your pants around your butt and blah, 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 you probably lost me right there. But if you come in and explain to me how further my future could go if I wore the suit instead of the sagging pants, then maybe I'd understand in a way that says, you know what, wait a minute, I'm going to make the decision to change my way, not because of you downing me or judging me, but because I've learned that that's going to benefit my future.
Okay, then what we're going to do is take another quick break. I'm liking this conversation already, already. And we'll be back in a few minutes.